Alright, hey, what's up guys, it's Slickmoff here. I'm back again with another video. In this one, Supergirl Season 2 Episode 3 review, and also Episode 1 and 2 I want to get into in this video as well. So let's just go and jump right into it. You'll notice I'm a little bit critical of Episode 3, but I really enjoyed Episode 1 and 2. So let's start with Episode 1 and 2, what I liked about those and what I thought worked. So in terms of Supergirl Season 2, Episode 1 and 2, I thought that it was Superman and Supergirl just about ripped right off of the comic book page. And some people will interpret that as like, oh, well, oh yes, this Superman is way better than, the DCU Superman, and vice versa, and people get into that fan war nonsense that I'm not really into. But I thought that, it's pretty much an objective fact that really it's not that either is not comic accurate, it's just different interpretations of the character at different points in the DC timeline. The Superman in the show is a little bit more pre-crisis Superman, whereas the Superman that we have here is definitely post-crisis or in the DCU rather, definitely post-crisis, maybe even New 52, borderline in terms of attitude and demeanor and everything like that. And some people would argue, well, that's not really Superman, and he's dead now. Indeed, he is. And I think that Superman is going to shift into Rebirth Superman, certainly. But a little bit more that pre-crisis Superman mixed in as well. And many would argue that, before the death of Superman, maybe the glory days of Superman in comics. Supergirl, she's not quite where she is usually in the comics. Generally in the comics, she's a little bit more hard-headed, I suppose, a little bit more belligerent. She's definitely rough around the edges than her cousin. That's for damn sure. And we haven't really seen that quite yet. We definitely do see it a little bit in this episode with Mon-El. She's very aggressive with him, and she's she doesn't think of the where Mon-El comes from very, very well. And it sort of represents a little bit of she's a little hypocritical because the whole episode she's talking about how we'll get into that a little bit. But anyway, episode 1 and 2, I really, really enjoyed. I thought that they were great, and just seeing stuff like that Superman holding Supergirl in his arms as she's lifeless, evidently lifeless, which is just insane because that same comic book, I ordered like a week ago, literally, before I knew that was going to happen in the episode. So it's just crazy as a fan of comics to see that sort of stuff come into play. And it's just really, really great to see. You also have Metallo in the mix as well, so I think just Superman fans and just regular DC Comics fans were very happy with the first and second episodes. In terms of episode 3, though, I have issues with this episode. I think from sort of an innate level, there's stuff went wrong in this episode, and I think that this show goes horribly, horrifically wrong whenever it dabbles in political and social issues. And they did it all the time in season 1. It was mainly feminist issues that they were entering. The problem when you're entering feminist issues with Supergirl is that Supergirl can melt all 3.5 billion men on Earth if she wanted to. She'd go up in the sky and melt them all. So when Supergirl is complaining about how women are taught to, socially to restrain their feelings, which she did when she was, in the punching scene in season 1, I think like episode 10 or something like that. It doesn't work. In fact, it falls flat on its face horrifically. It just doesn't work. And hearing Kara Zor-El, again, somebody that could melt all 3.5 billion men on the Earth. If she hates them so bad, she might as well do so. It just doesn't work. Those feminist critiques, and they're wholly unnecessary in my personal opinion. You're never going to see a comic really where Supergirl's commenting on these sort of social issues. And that's the thing about Superman and Supergirl, right? Is that they're transcendent of politics. Supergirl is less of an American hero. Superman is an American icon. He is wholly an American hero, I think. A Kansas boy, an embodiment of the American spirit and American values. So I think if you're looking at that realm, sort of the political issues discussed here about nativism and some things could work a little bit better. Supergirl, however, is not. She does not have the attachment to America that Superman most definitely does as an American hero. Now, we can look at DC Comics. Where you're from is not necessarily vindicative of what type of hero you are. Batman, born and raised in America, his nationality has almost nothing to do with his identity. Superman, interestingly enough, not born in America, has an incredibly, that is such a big part of his identity, and so much of the iconic Superman art features the American flag. He is just he's an American hero at the end of it. Yes, he's a global hero, but Really, Americanism is a part of his identity is basically what I'm getting at. Here's my point. This show is overstepping its boundaries as a comic book show. And this show is the best when it's a comic book show. In season 2, episode 1, episode 2, Superman, Supergirl teaming up against each other, with one another against Metallo. Martian Manhunter and Superman are fighting Metallo on screen. That's when the show is at its best. When the show is at its worst is when President Carter is signing the Alien Amnesty Act and giving a speech about America, and Supergirl is, sort of intermixing her own very strong values that are divisive, and they just sort of accept that everybody agrees with them, and that's not necessarily the case. Her positions, when you think about it in the context of refugees from alien planets, okay, yes, but when you're trying to apply the scenario of a fictional character from a fictional non-existent planet that is arriving to a planet that she did not even, decide to come to or was ordained to come to, with a very complex geopolitical landscape that we have here on planet Earth and have had for thousands of years, you get into issues. So the message, the politics of this episode is just wholly overstated and unnecessary, and it does not work in the episode. And more importantly, it does not work in the show. The feminist ideologies do not work in the show, and I hope they move away from this and people start to realize that female comic book characters are not cool just because they are female. And people that like female comic book characters just because they are female are sort of lame in their own right and probably don't have any good reason to actually like those characters beyond their gender. And, it's all good if you just like a character just for their gender, but I think that it's in the best interest of these people that are trying to promote feminist values that men aren't interested in. When you're trying to shove down their throats that Supergirl is cool because she's a woman, it doesn't work. It just doesn't. And they did that all the time in season 1, less so in this season thus far. And that's what I'm saying. When gender is not a part of it, when politics is not a part of it, and Superman and Supergirl and Martian Manhunter are fighting Metallo, this show is epic. When you've got the alien amnesty, I just can't even say it with a straight face. It's awful. It is awful. The middle part of this episode was horrendous. But it does come full circle when Miss Martian was revealed. Now, I think the design of Miss Martian looks horrendous. I will say that straight away. You look at Young Justice, where Martian Manhunter really grew as me. Miss Martian grew on me as a character. Not that I didn't like her previously, but I just didn't have strong affinity for the character as I do now after seeing Young Justice. Her design is not very good. With that being said, you could make the argument that John's look is not all that great either, but it's not that bad. It's not that far off from where he would be in the animated series or comics, for example. It's sort of the same look. Miss Martian, however, she's entirely too old, and I think that I know Young Justice is when they're young, that's the name of it, but even so, I don't like the look of it, and something about her design just throws me off really badly. Also, quite the coincidence that he sees her there, but I guess it is fitting at a bar that's only aliens there, okay, so that makes sense. Anyway, here's my message to the show. Drop the politics. Drop the social commentary. Superman and Supergirl, they are iconic mythic figures that transcend politics and social issues. And certainly Superman, you can get away with it a little bit more than Supergirl. And for Supergirl, it just doesn't work. It hasn't worked in season 1, and it continues to flop here in episode 3. So I hope they move away from that. I hope they embrace the comic book roots of Supergirl. And they've done so a lot in the past. They've done so in the first and second episodes of season 2. They've done so in episode 19 and 18 of season 1 and stuff like that. But I hope that they continue to push that even further. So anyway, guys, hope you'll have enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on Supergirl Season 2, Episode 3, but just Season 2 as a whole. We'll see you guys in the next one.